Cars for matchmakers, cars for gap year trips to Israel, cars for Jewish youth and their families. Let's call it what it is, guys. It's not Kars4Kids. In November 2025, Kars4Kids, yeah, the one with that annoying jingle, was named in a class action lawsuit for racketeering, false advertising, and California unfair competition laws. Let's look at exactly what the case is against Kars4Kids and learn some things you may not have known about them. Welcome to Feral America. Picture this. Your grandpa, 75 years old. He's got an old car sitting around. He hasn't driven it in ages, and it's not really worth selling on Facebook Marketplace or anything like that. So while he's driving in his good car, here's an ad on the radio that he's heard a million times before. 1877. And he's like, oh, hey, if I can donate my car and it goes to helping local kids who need extra help, that's amazing. So he calls the number. He doesn't bother to check the website because, again, he's 75 and that's the last thing he wants to do is turn on the old desktop and wait for it to warm up and try to figure out how to Google this thing. So he calls the number, which is what the ad tells you to do. He donates his car, and then a little while later, he's talking to a neighbor. And the neighbor says, oh, I didn't realize that you supported the Zionist agenda. And he's like, what are you talking about? Well, did you know that Kars4Kids and their parent company, Oorah, give most of their money, well, they give a third of their money to advertising, like $22 million to Google, for example, in 1 year. But the rest of their money, they spend not on charities for kids, not on general charities for general kids. No, most of their money goes to funding gap year trips abroad to Israel for Orthodox Jewish graduates. It goes to funding a matchmaking service for Orthodox Jews. Does it help Christian kids? No. Does it help Muslim kids? No. Is there anything wrong with helping Jewish kids? No, not at all. A lot of people would love to give to help support the mission of Oorah and Kars4Kids if they were open and honest about it, which they are not. So let's take a deeper dive. I'm going to go through the Substack that I wrote about this, and we're going to look at some other documents that go along with this, including tax returns from Kars4Kids and Oorah. We'll take a little bit closer look into this class action lawsuit and look at exactly where the money that Kars4Kids gets goes. We're going to take a look at exactly why California banned the advertisement of Kars4Kids, as well as some legal cases against Kars4Kids from Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota throughout the years. So that hypothetical 75-year-old grandpa that I gave you is actually based on a real person named Bruce Puderbaugh. He's 70 years old, and he lives in Lake County, California. He had a 2001 Volvo that he wanted to get rid of and decided to listen to that earworm in his head and call Kars4Kids. His neighbor told him that it didn't go to help kids in California. It went to help Jewish kids and young adults in New Jersey. where Kars4Kids and Oorah are based. By the way, Kars4Kids and Oorah have the same CEO. His name is Eli Mintz. His father was the rabbi who founded these organizations, and Eli has since taken it over. Now, lucky for Eli, he only works a 25-hour work week. Where did I find that information? Well, on the Kars4Kids website, actually. I did go there, and they claim that they are very transparent, that they are a Jewish organization. So let's see. Fast free pickup, save money on your taxes. You help kids. The proceeds from your vehicle supports the youth and educational programs of national nonprofit Kars4Kids and our sister charity Oorah. So in the, above the fold, there's nothing on here about them being a Jewish-run organization. And again, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just there's nothing that indicates any of this in their advertising, which is what the California courts ended up finding. So, okay, finally, when we scroll all the way down almost to the footer, it says, a child's life is his home, school, friends, and community. It takes a positive experience, blah, blah, blah. Kars4Kids is a registered nonprofit Jewish organization who, together with Oorah, our sister charity, helps thousands of children develop into productive members of the community. So here they talk about this. But here it says, help thousands of children develop into productive members of the community. It says they're a Jewish organization, but it doesn't say that they specifically just help Jewish kids. It says thousands of children. So let's take a look at their financials, which they put for us right here. Made my job a lot easier in trying to track this stuff down. All right, so here we see that the principal officer is Eli Mintz, who is also the principal officer of Oorah. This is 2024. In 2024, they received $99 million. Oh, sorry, that was in 2023. In 2024, they received $94 million in contributions and grants. So that would be car donations and other contributions, donations that they received monetarily. And then they had a loss of $14 million. I believe that was a real estate loss. So their total revenue for 2024 was pushing $81 million. All right, so that was the revenue. Expenses, $36 million paid out. Other expenses, $45 million. And so their total expenses, $88 million. So again, signed by Eli Mintz. So let's take a little look at what they do here. Okay, so it says Kars4Kids funds educational, developmental, and recreational programs for Jewish youth and their family. So here is where it actually tells you. So if you wanted to see that their funds actually go to Jewish youth and their families, not just Kars4Kids, is it? You would have to, you could see that they were a Jewish organization on just browsing through their website carefully. But in order to know that the money goes to Jewish youth and their families, you would have to actually open their tax return and read through it, which how many people are going to do if they're just trying to get rid of a junker car that's sitting in their front yard? So let's take a just quick peek at how much they spent on advertising in 2024. Google, $22.5 million. So when you're donating your car to Kars4Kids, you're really just paying Google for more advertising. Bing ads, almost 3.5 million on Bing. Do people still even use Bing? I honestly didn't even know it was still a thing. But yeah, so Sirius Satellite, almost 500,000. That's where I hear their ads incessantly. But thankfully, being in California, I won't have to hear them again after June 8th because they got busted. They can't advertise in California anymore. Okay, so let's take a quick peek at the salaries of the employees, of the key employees here. All right, so here we have Eli Mintz, right? He's the CEO. Average hours worked per week, 25. That must be really nice to be a CEO and only have to work 25 hours a week and get paid $118,000 a year. Oh, wait, plus $62,000. So $180,000 a year to work 25 hours a week. I broke it down, and that turns out to $138 an hour. The IRS does have laws about excessive payment for nonprofits when it comes to their officers, their employees. I'm curious if this would qualify as excessive at 25 hours a week and getting $180,000 a year. Again, this is a 501c3 federal nonprofit. Poor old Robert, the president, he has to work a full 40-hour week, and he only gets $157,000 a year. Wow. Robert, you need to do a little more negotiation there, pal. Anyway, here are their officers, what they get paid, or what they were getting paid in 2024. So Eli Mintz, CEO of Kars4Kids, is also the CEO of Oorah. Oorah also shares their 2025 $990. It's much, much less detailed than the Kars4Kids one. It's only 2 pages, and I didn't even show you guys the entire Kars4Kids one. And this also does not break down by officer or employee how much they get paid, but it does show that in 2025, they were paying out a little over $13 million in salaries and compensation and employee benefits. So I'll have to take a peek at exactly how many employees they have and add that into my Substack too. I'm also curious how many hours Eli works here. Does he also work 25 hours here? What is he doing? Why don't they tell us that on this? Why did they give such a detailed form for Kars4Kids and such a bare bones form for Oorah, which is the one that's actually spending the money? So just to recap where we're at, we have this guy in California who realized his money was not going where he thought it was. And in fact, it was going to fund Israeli homeland trips for 17 and 18-year-olds, adult matchmaking services, and a $16.5 million building purchase in Israel. So how long has Kars4Kids been around? Well, they've been running donation ads, car donation ads since 1994. And that little jingle that you know them so well for has been around for over 20 years. It's a very simple, and it's aimed to hit the heartstrings. Children, charity, ease of giving, local impact. That is the implication. That is what they are selling in their app. On my Substack article about this, one woman responded and said, well, their website is really easy to find. And so why didn't the guy just check the website? Well, as I addressed earlier and had already addressed in my Substack, that's not what the ad tells you to do. The ad tells you to call their number, not to go to their website, not to see where your donation really goes. And so the California courts found this misleading by omission because they don't mention anything about it being a religious organization at all. They don't mention anything about the donations only going towards one religious faith. And they don't mention that it only goes to people in New York and New Jersey, not in your state, not in your country. Canada, they run ads there too. That money is going to Jewish children and their families. And their families. I wonder how it gets decided who gets this money. I'm very curious who the 250 students or graduates who had their gap year trip to Israel funded through Kars4Kids and Oorah. I wonder who their connections were. How were they chosen as the ones to receive this benefit? During the California trial, the chief operating officer of Kars4Kids, Esty Landau, testified under oath. She confirmed that the organization's primary purpose is not to help economically disadvantaged children. It's to help Jewish kids and families throughout their lives. It's not Cars for families. It's not Cars for recent high school graduates. It's called Kars4Kids, not kids and their families. She also confirmed during her testimony that in order to know any of this, that a donor would have to go to their website and look around a little bit. The judge responded to that by saying that consumers act responsibly by calling the number rather than cross-referencing the website, especially because the ad that runs again and again and again and again is the phone number for their organization. It's not Kars4Kids.org today. Nope, they don't do that. I mean, that would be great if they really wanted people to know what their money is going to. They know how to make a catchy jingle. Why not direct it to their website now? Sure, when they started, websites weren't really as much of a thing as they are now. Get with the modern days, guys. You're spending $34 million a year on advertising, but you're using the same jingle that you've used for 20 years? So why was California so up in arms about this? Well, probably because over a quarter of the cars that are donated to Kars4Kids come from Californians, thinking that they're supporting kids in their community who are in need. When in actuality, all of the money is going either back towards advertising, to Eli Mintz's salary and the other executives, or to Oorah, who is doing these adult matchmaking services. Again, high school graduate trips. They do summer camps and a few other things as well that do involve children. But to call it Kars4Kids when the bulk of the money is going towards adults and young adults or kids and their families is deceptive. And to take Californians' donations that could be going to another organization that collects cars, there's ones for veterans and for other things, they could have made a more informed decision if it were not for this deceptive advertising. And then again, for this to not even be helping children or helping children on the West Coast or in California or in Canada, if you've donated there. Again, these are going to help Jewish children and their families in New Jersey and New York. They did, however, give in California. They gave away 1,000 backpacks. And nobody had to give any explanation of need or anything. It was just a random drawing. So 30,000 cars in exchange for 1,000 backpacks. Not really a fair trade there. Cars for matchmakers. Cars for gap year trips to Israel. Cars for Jewish youth and their families. Let's call it what it is, guys. It's not Cars for Kids. It's more money for the Zionist agenda. So let's take a look at some of the previous cases before this 2025 class action lawsuit. In Oregon and Pennsylvania in 2009, Kars4Kids settled a deceptive advertising lawsuit and paid each state, I believe it was $65,000 to settle the lawsuit. They were supposed to change their practice, but they didn't. Same ad, same markets, no indication of religious affiliation or any other thing besides giving cars for kids. In Minnesota in 2017, another case came up, and the judge found that Kars4Kids primarily serves to fundraise for Oorah. And again, Oorah is the sister charity of Kars4Kids, run by Eli Mintz. I don't know what his salary is there because, again, their tax return that they shared was very limited. But what Oorah does say, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, is that they are committed to Haredi. Sorry if I've mispronounced that. Which is things that support the ultra Orthodox Jewish lifestyle. So again, there's nothing wrong at all in supporting charities that support this if you know what you're giving to. And if you don't think that you're giving to local children in need in your own community. I'm curious to see if other states are going to be following suit here and holding Kars4Kids accountable for their deceptive marketing and advertising practices. I'm also curious what that $16 million building in Israel is. Have you ever given a car to Kars4Kids? What was your experience? Did you know that you were giving to a Jewish charity that is not even really a charity? It's for Jewish youth and their families? Let me know in the comments. Just another day in feral America.